So, when Jesus fell off the cupboard, it's an interesting title, yes? Well, it could mean a few things. It could represent those times in our lives when we were trying so hard to keep our act together, to keep our ducks in a row. And I don't know about you, but I love some of those quotes and those memes that I see about keeping our ducks in a row. So I'm going to share a couple with you this morning. If I waited until all my ducks were in a row, I'd never get across the street. Sometimes you just have to gather up what you've got and make a run for it. I like that one. My ducks are absolutely not in a row. I don't even know where some of them are, and I'm pretty sure one of them's a pigeon. And the last one, I don't have ducks in a row. I have squirrels, and they're everywhere. So we're trying to keep things orderly, and something just falls apart. Completely opposite from our direction. Off falls Jesus from the cupboard. Well, this morning it means something quite different. Jesus falling off the cupboard represents a time when we're looking for a sign. We're considering something. We're opening our heart to a new direction. We're contemplating, and we'd really like to know if we're heading in the right direction for us. And we'd love a clue, we'd like a hint, some affirmation, anything really to let us know that we're on the right track. So this happened with our friend Nancy Mishka. She'd been contemplating a move, and in her mind, she was seriously thinking about where she had spent her last summer near her brother in South Carolina. And it seemed doable. There were a lot of things she liked about that specific area and some things that she didn't. And then another thought came to her. How about moving back home to Pennsylvania? I think she may have shocked herself with that thought. Back home to Pennsylvania, she has siblings and nieces and nephews and grand nieces and nephews, but Pennsylvania, that seemed like a much more major move. So, being a good Unity student, Nancy asked Spirit for guidance, something to show her that this wasn't a crazy idea, but something worth pursuing. And she left it at that. Well, one morning she came downstairs to find Jesus, literally and physically. She found Jesus, a picture of Jesus that usually sat on the cupboard. It's a photo of the painting that hangs in my office. That painting had belonged to our beloved, the late Reverend Evelyn Casper. And we had had prints made of that painting for everyone who had donated art or purchased art or volunteered at our art auction last year. So it was that photo that had been happily hanging on the cupboard for months and months and months, now was on the floor. So Nancy asked, "What are you trying to tell me?" And she heard in her mind very clearly, "I've got your back." Nancy could do whatever she wanted to do, and she would be okay, more than okay. And our beloved Nancy now lives in a sweet home near her siblings and nieces and nephews with her precious dog Jessie in Pennsylvania. She's joining us today. She finally got Wi-Fi. She's in our Zoom community today. For Spirit knows no degree of difficulty. A move across the street or a move across the world, same thing. No degree of difficulty. I'm with you. I've got your back. Do what your heart desires. Follow your heart. That we make the request or the demand, show me a sign, give me some guidance. Let me know what I'm to do, what you want me to do, what is in my highest and greatest good. We make the request, and then often nothing happens. Why? Well, it reminds me of a few stories I've heard and that you've heard also. There's the man who wanted to win the lottery. Week after week, he asked God to let him win the lottery. He told God the good things that he would do with the money if he won, and week after week, nothing. No winnings to be had. Finally, fed up, he practically screamed at God, "Why won't you let me win the lottery?" And God answered, yes, God answered and said, "Buy a ticket." Or the man, and I'm sorry, these are both men, it's just how it worked out. The man sitting on his roof in a terrible flood, asking God to save him. Lori calls this one the parable of the drowning man. So he's on the roof, it's flooding, and he asks God to save him. So a rowboat comes by and they offer him a ride and he declines. And then a motorboat comes by and offers to take him to dry land. Again, he declines. Finally, a helicopter reaches him, sends down a rope ladder, and again, he refuses to go. The man drowns. Frustrated, he says to God, "I had faith in you, but you didn't save me. I don't understand why." And God answered, "I sent you 2 boats and a helicopter. What more did you expect?" It's true. It's funny, but it's true. We ask for guidance, and then we close our eyes and our ears and our hearts to the myriad of ways, the countless answers to our requests. Spirit is unlimited in the avenues of communication. Some may be subtle and others more obvious. A few years ago, a minister friend of mine had been unsure of her next steps. The congregation in the church she was serving was not accepting of her as their spiritual leader. Honestly, they had wanted an older male, and they got a younger female. This was not Unity. This was a church organization where they assigned their ministers in the field. So my friend, knowing that Unity believed in such things as signs and God speaking to us, asked me to decipher something that had happened to her. She'd gotten up in the middle of the night, she'd gone to use the bathroom, she'd turned on the light switch, and there was a roach. So yes, the community was in Florida. She freaked out a bit, and she grabbed a shoe and she killed the roach. So she asked me, should I think about the bug as a sign that I don't belong here? That the roach was here first and I'm an intruder? Or since I killed it, was that a sign that I should stay, that I can overcome barriers? And my friend was so disappointed that I told her that I could see both sides of those interpretations and that she needed to ask God what the message meant for her. Because we can make up in our minds what we want anything to mean. If Nancy had been looking for an excuse not to move, she could have seen that photo of Jesus on the floor as a message saying that she would literally end up on the floor if she tried to move. Maybe she'd injure her back. She'd be on her back on the floor. Or perhaps she wasn't strong enough to stand on her own feet at that point in time, that there was more to do to get ready, more years to prepare. You see, we make events and situations take on meaning that we want them to take on. After all, that's what we are. We are meaning makers. We interpret situations, events, objects, conversations, all of it, in the light of our previous experience and knowledge. And we assign meaning to make our lives easier. There's a very sophisticated, formal phrase to describe this process. So are you ready for it? Here it is. We make stuff up. That's what we do. We make stuff up. That's what being a meaning maker means. Something happens and we make stuff up. We decide what it means. Then we believe it, and then it becomes law. Or we decide we don't really have all the information and we can't assign meaning yet, so we ask for more information. If my minister friend had asked, especially in the midst of that event, "What does this mean?" Or "What are you trying to tell me?" and she'd waited just a moment or two, she probably would have had her answer. Or the man on the roof wanting to be saved, or the guy trying to win the lottery and losing every week. Because we can get caught up in our heads, in our intellect, and not opening our hearts to the movement of spirit in our lives. Because we are meaning makers, that's what our brain goes to automatically. And we have the power to pause, to place our conclusion on hold. And I know that's not an easy one, to place our conclusion on hold and to wait, to ask ourselves and the universe questions, to not assume we know what we're trying to be shown, to wait, to be open, to sit in the space of curiosity. And when we do that, we will feel the nudge, the prompting, the next steps along our path. Synchronicity, or whatever you would like to call it, is interesting, isn't it? Something, an idea, a place, an event will appear in your world repeatedly. Not necessarily in the news, perhaps, but in conversations, more intimate or elusive connections. Just something will continue to come up. Several years ago, Bali was a place that I started hearing about. It was one of those synchronicities. Well, Bali is a province of Indonesia, and it's described as a tropical paradise with friendly people, beautiful beaches, really stunning. And Bali gained tremendous popularity with all the attention it received in the book, and then the movie Eat, Pray, Love, where the author eats in Italy, prays in India, and finds love in Indonesia, in Bali, countries that all start with I, which I think is very prophetic, very telling, really, because everything does start with I. It starts within ourselves. So then I'm at a Unity church and I learn of a tour that's heading to Bali, led by Jana Stanfield. And we love Jana's music. And I thought, that's interesting. And next I hear of another tour heading to Bali, led by someone I personally knew at my home church of First Unity in St. Pete. Bali again. I think perhaps I am meant to go there. Please know, I had done very little traveling and none abroad at this point in my life. But I pay attention to the nudges and I decide that I should position myself appropriately and continue to listen, to pay attention. So what did I do? I applied for a passport for the first time, my very first passport. I felt like an adult. And once my passport arrived, all the interest and the nudges for Bali stopped. But my desire to travel and explore did not. And almost immediately I had the opportunity to travel, and I already had my passport. So was the message, the clues, the hints meant for me to go to a specific location? I don't think so. I believe the message for me was to think bigger and to continue to explore as part of my life's journey, and to not feel inhibited or to feel any sense of lack, not to feel unprepared, whether that exploration was across the ocean or across the street, to possess the confidence that the world is my oyster, that I have the ability to do anything or go anywhere that I truly have the desire for, that I have the tools, that you have the tools to move forward on the spiritual path that is ours alone. What is the universe encouraging you to do? What nudges, what clues, what hints are you experiencing? For God is always speaking. Divine wisdom combined with deep, deep love is always present. Divine love is never silent. In the book of Jeremiah, chapter 33, verse 3, call to me and I will answer you and show you great and mighty things which you do not know. Call to me, ask, seek ye first the kingdom of God, the essence of the divine. Ask. The answers can be felt within our heart. And yes, sometimes when we ask, And we must first ask. We may hear an answer, a clear, distinct answer, like Nancy heard when finding the Jesus on the floor. Other times, our answers come to us in the voice of someone beside us, or in an article we're led to read, or in a dream. The voice of God, the message of universal love, will always be in harmony with what we know of God, of the divine. It will never be contrary to the message of love. When the message aligns with the truth we know, we can trust it is not the ego, but our Christ consciousness, our connection with all that is guiding our way, affirming our goodness and the goodness of all others. We must, however, first quiet ourselves in order to hear. We must gently set aside our ego. It's okay. I'm good. Take a rest for a while. I'll pick you up again soon, like we would speak to a child. Move past any fear of the unknown and open our hearts to the guidance of Spirit. Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. You will find clues and hints and divine guidance. You will find the confidence to move forward in the direction that is yours and yours alone. Keep asking, what is mine to do today? And then listen with your ears and with your heart, and you will know. And so it is, my friends, and so it is.